Hi again, it's Jennifer. So we're going to continue our grammar practice and grammar lessons. I continue to use the basic grammar series, the resources from Betty Azar and Stacy Hagen. And today we're continuing with the superlative, looking at most. So we have, of course, the example here. We have a big family. My brother is older than me. Grandpa is the oldest of all. So that's what we practiced yesterday. So we're going to continue this practice and reviewing the comparative. My brother is older than me. Superlative would say Grandpa is the oldest of all. So that's what we did before. Now we're looking at another form for the superlative. For example, that's the same. Grandpa is the oldest member of the family. So that's one form. The other form that we see with other adjectives is here. Grandma is the most beautiful person in the family. So you can see the two different forms, right? We have the oldest with EST at the end, right? And the before. And the second form is the most beautiful, right? The most, so most beautiful, right? So what is this? We'll take a little closer look. Remember, the superlative is when we are comparing more than two things, more than two people, or more than two things, objects. And so to form the superlative of an adjective, right, we always need the first. And then we use the adjective, right? Now, for the adjectives that are short, right, one syllable, one sound, like the example here, old, right? So for the short ones, we only add EST to the end of the adjective. For the longer adjectives that are more than two syllables, we use most, right? We use most, and it goes in front of the adjective, right? So the most beautiful. Let's look at these forms side by side with a few examples. So, like I said, adjectives with two or more syllables, the longer adjectives, for example, expensive, right? Do you remember the comparative form of expensive? For the comparative form, remember, comparing two people, we need to say more expensive, right? Now, the superlative form, what is the superlative form? The superlative form is the most expensive, right? Okay. And right, so you want to make sure that you have the in the front and the word most before the adjective. Okay. So let's look at another one. What about important? Right? What is the comparative form of important? It is more important. Now, superlative. What is the superlative form? The superlative form is the most important. Again, we have the and we have most, right? Because important is two or more syllables, right? Important, three syllables, three sounds. So that is why we need most. So basically, anytime we use more, if you remember that you need more for the comparative, change that to the most for superlative, okay? Now, there are some irregulars, right? Do you remember the irregular comparatives? For example, good, right? Do you remember what is the comparative form of good? Not gooder and not more good. What is it? Better. So, in the same way, superlative is irregular. So we would say the best. Okay, the best. Now, what about bad? Do you remember bad? So bad, where is it? There we go. Bad is worse, right? So superlative, what is the superlative form? It's irregular also, and it is the worst. The worst. Okay, so these are ones you're just going to need to remember. You need to memorize, right? So far, do you remember the comparative for this one? There's two different forms it could be, right? It could be farther or further. This one is similar. It is also irregular, but it should be a little easier to remember. It is the farthest and the furthest. So ER and EST, but you have that weird, right, TH in there, right? That makes it irregular, okay? So we'll look at one more example of this before you do your practice, okay? So let's see. So we have the adjective expensive, right? A good bicycle is expensive. If you want a quality bicycle, it is expensive, right? Now, a motorcycle is more expensive, right? A motorcycle is more expensive than a good bicycle, right? Of all of these, a car is what? A car is the most expensive. You could say of all, right? But we understand of all. If you say the most expensive, we always understand that that is of all the options, of all the things, because most, this superlative form, we always know that means it's comparing all the things, right? Okay, so now it's your turn to do some of the practice.